Hello and welcome to the Bend Like Bamboo Resilience Show. To bend like bamboo is to master change with flexibility. And on the show, I get to interview very special guests talking all about resilience and tips and tools on how they have had to master resilience in their life and their mind and their body. So today on the show, I have Toni Dingle. Welcome.
Hey Amanda, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited about today's interview and having you on. It's my pleasure. Please let me introduce you properly. So, everybody, Toni Dingle is the founder of That Gut Feeling and a health coach, helping our babies reach their full potential in life. Toni is obsessed with arming women with the tools that they need to dominate motherhood, both pre and post pregnancy. By taking a holistic approach to gut health, Toni helps women to look after themselves first and foremost so that they're better equipped to do what they do best, which is looking after everybody else. Through education, empowerment, and support, Toni helps women to navigate all of the things that stop us from being the kick ass version of ourselves that we know we can be. And along the way, she teaches you how to help your children reach their fullest potential also. So cool. I'm so glad we met, Toni. I think that what you do is amazing.
Oh, likewise, Amanda. I think you're just so inspirational, and I'm really, really glad to be here. Honored to be chatting to you today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And tell me, so how many years ago did you think up that gut feeling?
Actually, really not that long ago. I think it would have been just at the start of the year. So it's very, very new for me.
Awesome. Awesome. Well done. Tell me a bit about your
Thank you.
background. What were you doing prior to that?
Prior to becoming a health coach, I was actually an accountant, believe it or not.
Yes.
I very, very different world, that one. So I was an accountant for close to 10 years, and then I became a mum. And I have wanted to be a mum for forever. So once that kind of happened for me, I decided that I didn't want to work at the same time.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a stay-at-home mum, and then a lot of circumstances and things changed in my life. And my husband was working away in the mines. He's 7 on, 7 off, and I really started to reevaluate priorities. My dad passed away, and we sort of it really started getting me questioning what's important in life, and I wanted
Yeah.
to get my baby's daddy home. And so I started thinking about what I could do from home, and my heart just wasn't in accounting anymore. And after dad passed away, I decided then and there that life's too short for doing anything other than what you're passionate
Oh,
about. So
that's a
that's why I
wonderful
pursued the health
realization.
coaching path.
Yeah, great, great. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. How many kids do you have?
I have two. I
Nice.
have a 3.5-year-old going on 18 and a 16-month-old. And I thought I had my hands full with the first one. I thought the second one, surely maybe he'd be my tamer child, but no, he's going to be just as crazy, I think.
Awesome.
Definitely got my hands full.
I can imagine you would be such an amazing, loving mum.
Oh, thank you. I try my best. I really do.
So obviously, gut health um, important to you, and you've noticed that makes a difference with our health, and particularly for our kids.
Oh, absolutely. It's a big player in why I started my business. Where did it start for me? So my eldest, sorry, he developed eczema, and I took him to the doctor, and they gave me steroid cream, and I put steroid cream on him, and he reacted to the steroid cream. I went back, and they're like, "Oh, here's some more steroid cream," and I was like, "Oh, I think that's enough of the steroid cream, thanks." And so I decided to start going down the path of looking at alternative ways to support him, and I big believer in getting to the root cause of things, and
Yeah.
started looking into gut health, and that's where my passion for that developed. It just took me 4 or so years to get to this point to decide to pursue it as a career.
What change did you notice in your son?
Well, I actually went to a naturopath and we got a stool analysis done and worked out what was going on with him.
Yeah.
And we got him onto a probiotic and changed his diet. And he actually ended up, it was eczema on his face. It started off as, and I think maybe on his arm as well at one stage. And yeah, that ended up clearing up not long after we started all of that, which was really great.
Well done. That's awesome. That's really inspiring. I think that anything to do with the skin, like as a kinesiologist, like we absolutely look at the gut health and, how the digestion is functioning. And when it's not, it tends to push out through the skin in different ways.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
does.
Well, let's dive in. I want to ask you, what does resilience mean to you?
Okay, so when I was thinking about what resilience, this is really random, what resilience means to me, the first thing that I thought about was so at my eldest brother's wedding, there was just my dad and myself left up on the dance floor at the end of the night. And they had that Chumbawamba song, I Get Knocked Down, But I Get Up Again,
Oh, I
playing.
love it.
And yeah, dad and I having good old boogie to that. And so there was nothing stellar about our dance moves at all, but that's the first thing that came to mind, and it ties in perfectly with my own story of resilience as well. So I thought I'd make mention of that.
Yes.
But also coming from growing up on a property, bit of a bush kid, I was always a tomboy. So when I think of resilience, I think back to our farmers as well, and they're having to endure droughts and floods and fires and all kinds of
Mm,
things. And it's just, they're so dependent on the weather and you can't control the weather, unfortunately. So, I think of them and, they have a lot of tough challenges in life thrown at them, and
it's
they
true.
just seem to keep on getting back up again and keeping at it and moving forward. So, yeah, that's what I think of when I think about resilience.
I love it. I love it. And so true. The weather is out of our control. And, so many things in it's out of our control. So it's a great metaphor what farmers, have to deal with in everyday life. And adapting to change, I imagine, is how you guys had to be resilient.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, you can't you can't not be resilient in that industry because
No.
it's just yeah, and in life in general, I suppose it's not just farming. I mean, we've got the whole COVID thing going on at the moment, and then that's applicable for everyone. So it
Yeah.
really is important to have that resilience and yeah.
It's an illusion to think that we're really in control because there's so much that's out of our control. But if we get good at adapting to change and swimming downstream more, we might find that we're actually more in control than we think. It's just not needing things to be a certain way, right?
That's right. And how we're perceiving events as well. We have the choice to choose
Yeah.
how we are perceiving what's happening to us as well. Yeah.
I love that. We have a choice to choose. I'm going to quote you. We have a choice to choose. I love it.
It doesn't,
Um,
I'm
I
not
keep
sure that it
writing.
sounds.
No, I love it. I keep writing golden nuggets as you talk. That's what I do. So, like anyone that hears scribbling, that's what I'm doing. We have a choice to choose. Would you love to share something that you've been through that you've had to overcome in your life?
Yeah, okay. So when I thought about, like, I've listened to a couple of the interviews that you've done, and there's some amazing stories, and people, and including yourself, have been through some really, really tough things. And I was thinking back, and I thought, I felt so blessed that I have had such a great life, and I haven't been dealt too many foul cards, I suppose. But when I really stopped to think about it, I was like, oh yeah, there was that thing, and oh, there was that thing as well, and there's a couple of things that crept in, but I suppose I don't let those things define me and I don't dwell on them. And
Yeah.
I feel like they've happened, I've dealt with them and moved on kind of thing. But the thing that really has been the hardest for me out of everything was losing my dad, hands
Yeah.
down. And that's still very new. And it was him passing has a lot to do with where I am today and why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's completely changed my life, tipped it upside down. And yeah, I was I was pregnant at the time. It was a very
Mm.
sudden death as well. So it wasn't like we were expecting him to leave us. And I mean, I know everyone loses someone, but um, yeah, for me, I'd never ever experienced grief really before. Like I said, I've been very lucky up until that point. So,
Yeah.
and being pregnant for me, it wasn't just the passing of dad. I had that whole concept of I'm growing someone inside of me, and
Yeah.
I know what a huge thing stress is as well, and what it does to the body. So I was just freaking out that I was going to harm my baby as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a pretty crappy time.
It would have been. It would have been really, really hard. And, I haven't lost my mum. I've lost my grandmother, who was like a second mum to me. And the grief was enormous. And it took many, many, many,
Mm,
many, well, months and years. But, the first stage, I remember the first few months, I cried all the time, just randomly, just
yeah.
releasing such intense sadness. I can't even imagine what you were going through with your own dad.
Yeah, absolutely. And um, like you said, many, many, many months, and it's still obviously
Yeah.
there. But I guess it comes back to the whole what we were talking about before of how what did I say? Choose to. I've got the choice to choose,
Choice to
and so
choose.
yeah,
I
I
love it.
chose to. Yeah, start looking at the whole concept a little bit differently. Is
Yeah.
because I knew that I was not where I wanted to be. And I decided that I needed to change something because I couldn't see an end to what I was going through, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
And how did you do that? How did you look at how did you prepare your mind and body to be able to elevate higher, to see things from a different perspective? Like, what were your processes?
Um, I think, I just reflected on how I normally dealt with hardships in might have been breakups with boyfriends. You'd have your heartbreak cry for a couple of days, and then you go, right, well, that's done now, there's no point dwelling over it anymore. What am I going to
Yeah.
do to move forward? And in those times I always focused on the things that I knew would bring me out of those funks, which is, for me, exercise has always been a massive player, and diet as well, just focusing on nourishing myself. And
Yeah.
another thing that I was doing was I was kind of wallowing in my grief, in that I would be listening to really sad music, the songs that were played at his funeral. And of course, that was then making me, I was thinking of his death rather than focusing on his life. And so I started listening to songs like that Chumbawamba song that I mentioned about before, and,
Yeah.
remembering the good times, and focusing on all of the things that he had instilled in me and what he would want me to do. And I knew that he wouldn't want me sitting there crying day in, day out.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I guess I started to focus on those things and pulling myself up instead of bringing myself back down all of the time. And
Yeah.
uh, didn't obviously happen overnight, but it was just that thought process change. I knew that stress was not good for me. You hear all of the stories about um, older couples losing their partner, and then the other one leaving not long after because they've been through so much stress and trauma and everything. And they
Yeah.
just don't want to be here anymore. And I was like, I don't want this to turn into, affect my health in the long run. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I
No, well, good
wanted
on.
to set a
Yeah.
good example for my babies as well.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm sure you
Yeah.
did the best that you could, and it sounds like you did an amazing job. You, instead of focusing on what you didn't want, you started to focus on what you did want, and you prepared. You gave yourself a good environment to be able to go through change. Exercise and nutrition is so important because we need that fuel to, feed the biochemistry and the chemical changes to fire serotonin and dopamine, so we can see things, with a better mindset, better mood, happiness. And
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. We need to sort of stop and check out, have checkpoints where we catch ourselves when we do fall back into focusing on what we don't want, or, you know, like as in your case, the death rather than the life. But I also think it was really important that you listened to those sad songs when you did and you really fully grieved. I think, like resilience, where
Yeah.
we have to go through the stuff and who we become on the other side of that is everything. Who you
Yeah.
become when you go through that deep grief is also very important, because maybe the polarity of those dark moments bring on sunshine afterwards. Otherwise, you'd just be suppressing the grief if you didn't fully experience it.
Yeah, definitely. And I love what you say about coming out the other side. I remember a girlfriend at the time, she had actually lost her mum, so she probably knew what she was talking about, but I didn't think it at the time. She said to me that everything happens for a reason. Short of just wanting to, give her a little bit of a headbutt,
Yeah.
I remember thinking, what good could possibly come out of this? But it has, like I said before, it's absolutely changed my life, and in a good way, obviously wanting back and, all the rest of it, but there has been good that's come from his
So other than
losing
obviously
him.
birthing your beautiful business, that gut feeling, what else? What good came from it?
I suppose it's just I've reflected on what impact dad has had on my life. And so that now makes me want to be a better mum. So I'm always looking for ways to grow in that department and give my babies the best start to life, and to make them resilient and just instill really good values and morals in them. And it's a work in progress. I'm not perfect by any stretch of the means, but that intention is there, and I am always trying to move forward. So that's one thing. The other thing that I'm really grateful for is that it really sat me on my butt and made me look at life and put everything into perspective. Our time on earth is so short, it's so fleeting, and I want to make the most of it. I really am now wanting to be present in the moment rather than worrying about the future, or, obviously it's important to set goals and, like I said, constantly moving forward and growing and all the rest of it. But it's just as important to be present in the now, and not focusing on things that are like out of control, like we were saying
I
before.
love it. It's so important. What do you think it takes to be a resilient mum? Like, what do you think as a mum we should do to be resilient in your eyes?
Oh, so much, Amanda.
Just
It's
three main things, like the most important things, like simple.
I guess for me it starts with that, making that decision.
Yeah.
The decision that you want to be better and do
Yeah.
better, and knowing that I don't think there is a final destination for that.
No.
And yeah, I think that's the first thing.
I love it.
A big thing for me and what I do is um, to be the best for our babies. It's really important to look after ourselves.
Yes.
We've got to be taking the time out to exercise and do things that fill our own cup, because if we're stressed out of our brain, we can't change our kids pulling at our legs and mum 50 times a day. We can't change those things, and they are stressful. I'm pretty sure that we're wired in the brain so that we're responding to their needs like that. It's something that's happening for a purpose up there. But again, it comes back to changing your perspective on looking at things how they are, and
I love that. It's so
you know
important.
yeah.
It's so true. We can't change the business, but we can absolutely change how we're perceiving the drama and the busyness of it all.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so true. Um, so when you're really time poor and you're a mum, how do you fill your cup up? Like, what are your tricks to make sure your self care happening?
Okay, so a big thing I think is just being organized. prepping meals, having frozen meals. It could be as simple as that. Another one which I'm constantly trying to do is get up before the kids get up and take time to get your workout in or meditate or whatever it is that fills your cup. And just because exercising is something that fills my cup, it doesn't mean that's necessarily something that's going to fill everyone's cup. It might be reading a book. It looks different for everyone, but finding those moments within the day to do something that lights your fire.
I love that. Light your fire. What's your like your number one? Is it food? Is it exercise?
Exercise has always been my big thing. If I am exercising, everything else in my life falls into place. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I can without my I have to move my body daily, and maybe a couple of times a week I'll do my Pilates and yoga and more the interval stuff, but and strength and endurance. But at least no matter what, every day I need to go for that walk with my dog or just move my body. Makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing that I think is really underestimated is to take the time to sit down with your little ones, whether it's first thing in the morning or last thing at night, and have a good old belly laugh. Tickle them until they're crying and roll around and just be silly, play. Like it's so good for them and it's so good for you. And I just don't think there's any downside to that.
We forget
and we're all
to be playful. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a big thing. And we're so busy. It is technology at their fingertips and all of that. And we forget to slow down and really take in those special moments, because I tell you, that they're the memories that your kids are going to keep. They're the ones that they're going to look back on and go,
well, you always
I
remember how
when
someone makes you feel, don't you? Not necessarily what they say or what they look like. It's the memories and how you make them feel. That's so important, to be playful, be silly, not to take life too seriously.
Yeah.
So
big motto of mine.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So when you were going through, your father's death, and when it was really hard before you turned the corner, tell me about the lowest point that you went through when you felt?
Okay, so the lowest point for me was probably when I've thought of death in the past, I've always believed that there was something more. I always believed if someone I was close to passed away, I'd be able to feel them around me. And when Dad passed away, I did not feel anything. And that broke me. That was really tough. And that got me questioning, why are we here? What's the purpose of
Where
life?
do we go? Is there anything?
Yeah. And I was like, okay, so there's life and then there's death. And that was a really depressing place to be. Was it's like, oh, well, it doesn't mean anything. Like, well, what's the point? And I went through that negative thought process, and it wasn't a fun place to be.
I can imagine.
So I guess that was probably my lowest point.
And then what was your turning point where you really just went, okay, I'm just, because everyone I talk to on the Resilience Show, there's always like a moment of choice. Always. Everybody has their moment of choice when they know they're going to choose something different. What was that moment for you? Or maybe it was a gradual process.
Yeah, for that, there wasn't anything specific that happened, but I do remember being in the kitchen one day having a big old cry, and I just, I was thinking to myself, I know how much of a toll that stress can take on the body. I mentioned that before. And I was like, well, I need to start putting steps in place to get out of this. So, it's going to sound so silly, but I started, one of the things that I started doing was I got onto YouTube and I found a lady called Charmaine Wilson. Have you ever?
Charmaine, no, I have to check her out. I don't know.
So Charmaine lost her daughter when she was 4 years old. And she really up and down roller coaster ride in her life as well, and that kind of on top of everything just broke her.
Yeah.
And she's actually a medium, and she was on there was a show on TV called The One. It was like a psychic show. She actually won that. And so I found myself watching her videos, and I ended up reading one of her books, and I went to one of her shows, and yeah, that kind of got me believing again that there is more. And some of the stuff that she does, you're just like, oh, you can't make that up. So then that sort of propelled me down my spiritual path. And yeah, that's still a bit of a process for me, but I
Belief is
guess
so
that's
important,
really,
isn't it? Like, it just shows like we can
yeah,
stop believing from trauma or grief. Because I remember I was actually present. His grandmother passed away just shortly afterwards. We arrived, and I remember that feeling where I felt like her essence was still around, but then I remember the feeling when it just wasn't, and it was a really scary feeling. I couldn't really be in the room anymore, even though she was there and it was her body.
oh,
So that, like, when we first arrived, I still almost felt a little bit of life force in her, and it felt her. But then there was just this
yeah,
moment where it's almost like it just all, you can tell when life force comes into the body. Apparently, people that deliver babies, they talk about it. And then there's life force that leaves the body, and it's a profound difference. But it doesn't
I have
mean
goosebumps.
that it doesn't go somewhere else. Like, you just
Yeah.
can't feel it right now. And maybe that's meant to be that, you're not supposed to feel it, but it's not to say that you might not, you might dream about him. You
Yeah.
might feel I mean, really, he's everywhere now in
Yeah.
everything. And we don't understand as humans what that even, we can't wrap our brains around what that even means, except, but belief is so important. I'm so glad you
And
found her.
I agree.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, sorry, it
No,
cut
go
out a
on.
little bit there. I was just going to say one of the things that Charmaine talks about is spirit animals. And this is the part that I was saying before. It's
Yeah,
going to sound a
cool.
little bit silly. But all of a sudden, there was this every time I had a thought about Dad, there was this little black willy wagtail. And it just was everywhere after that. And it's still here today. Like, it has not left since. So that's my thing.
Gosh.
Yeah, it sounds crazy, but I
No, it
mean, it gives me
doesn't.
peace. And I'm like, he's
No,
here.
it
That's
doesn't.
him. That Willy
You
Wagtail.
know, is that a good?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. No, I get this story on the after the wake from our grandmother's wake. We went into the back garden at home in the suburbs of Melbourne, and Mama's favorite animal was an owl, and so an owl just rocked up on the fence, hoot hoot, looking at us, and we're just like, what is an owl doing in Glen Iris? And it was the spirit animal, and I swear to God, I believe that. And every time I see an owl, I just think, I mean, it's rare that you see an owl, but yeah, like, it just rocked up there that night, and I felt like it was her presence. And I actually hear a lot of people saying, there's an animal that just rocks up, and you feel like it's them. So it's not
Yeah.
ridiculous at all.
Oh, yeah.
I
But I
love
tell you
that.
another really cool story about the Willy Wagtail.
Yeah.
I had my brother. He doesn't know this. He would just think I'm nuts if I was to tell him this story. But I was over in the shed. So we've got a shed not far from our house here. And my eldest brother had my youngest boy. And they were over in the sandpit at the house. And I looked over, and they're both looking up. And I've looked out and up, and both of them were looking at the Willy Wagtail sitting on the power line. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like, they're noticing it too. So that was a really nice moment for me.
I love that. That's
And that was a
beautiful.
long time after Dad's passing.
No, you obviously noticed it for a reason. So tell me, how is your life better now, having gone through what you've gone through? You've actually probably touched on that already, but if there was like a roundup thought about that.
Sure. I guess now I have purpose, I suppose, is the best way to sum it up. Like,
Beautiful.
I'm just wanting to continue to grow. And I like, starting my business for me was a big thing, because now, well, that all sort of came about talking to a girlfriend. She has a little boy with a few developmental delays, and we were talking on the phone one day, and she mentioned about how there's no support for families like hers out in the bush, and so much information online that she didn't really know where to start with it all. And I knew that gut health, addressing that for her son, would mean that he could reach his full potential. And
Yeah.
so that sort of propelled me to start the business and that side of things. And just through doing that and realizing, I just want to serve people. I just want to help people. And yeah, and that has all come about from dad passing and me wanting to make a difference in not just my boys' lives, but lives of other people as well. So I suppose
Oh,
that
that's
purpose
so
is,
beautiful. I love that
yeah.
so much. And that's what I love about that gut feeling is I understand where you're coming from, where you've gone through pain, you've gone through, a difficult time, and you're so passionate about the information you've researched, and you see how it can truly help. And then you sympathize with people that are going through that beginning stage, and they're very stressed, and it's hard to do that research for yourself. And that's what Ben Like Bamboo is all about, and that's what gut feeling is all about, and that's why I love what you do. Like, I really relate to that. I think you're
Yeah.
doing such a wonderful thing, and you are making a huge difference.
Thank you. And likewise.
Oh, thanks, lovely. So, do you have any final juicy tips to help other people out there that might be going through something in their lives? They're not really believing they can overcome it, but, helping them,
Mm.
believe again?
Yeah, sure. So I think, like I've mentioned earlier, just make that decision that you want more, and know that it's going to be. It could. I got a fly flying around me. Could be a bit of a journey for you, but I think another one is to know your why. Like, why is it that you're wanting to?
Yes.
Is it for your babies? Is it for yourself so you can feel great again? And because it is a journey, and the wheels are going to fall off every now and then. So it's important that we always bring ourselves back to that why and
Yeah.
hold strong in that. The other thing is to be open-minded
Yeah.
and curious.
Yes.
I think curiosity is a huge thing because there's so much out there, and what works for one person isn't going to work for you. I know a lot of the stuff when I was, especially, the Charmaine Wilson thing, that wasn't something that I was very open to begin with. I was like, oh, it's a little bit woo woo. But it has helped me
So
beyond
much.
measure. Like,
And if you had spoken to other people about it,
absolutely.
they might have gone, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" And if you had to listen to them, so
Yeah.
exactly, some things come into your life. It's not generic. It's sometimes a little bit of left of center, but if you really, let go of how things need to be, it can be such a gift. These random things that come into our lives, and it helps you specifically. It's for a reason, and then you take that gift, and it's transformative.
Yeah. And I'm a big believer in looking at all of the facts too, like if
Yeah,
someone offers something, look into it and then make a decision rather than brushing it off and going, oh, no, that's not for me.
yeah,
Just have that curiosity and that open-mindedness
love it.
to do a little bit of research and dig a bit deeper. So
Well, they're the best tips. I love that, Tony.
thank
My
you.
gosh. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. This is such important information. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Oh, you're welcome. I really enjoyed myself, and I just hope that someone can get something out of this,
Oh,
even
they
if it's
will.
just knowing that there's a willy wagtail out there that might be a loved
Absolutely.
one.
Absolutely.
So
And
yeah,
to look after our gut health. It's so important. I know it took me many years to nail mine. And when I did, I started to absorb my nutrients. I could MS symptoms started to subside more and more because my body was able to take in the nutrients better, and well, it changed my life. Like I think I really support what you do, and I think that we're getting more and more research around this, and it's great to have people like you that are spreading that information. So well done.
yeah. Thank you. And on that too, I think it's really important that people know to reach out for support. Like my girlfriend said to me, there's so much information online, you don't know where to start. It's really
Mm,
handy to reach out to someone like yourself or myself, and
Yeah.
just get that starting point so you can get pointed in the right direction, and have that support behind you
Yeah.
to get from A to B.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree.
Otherwise, it, yeah.
Yeah. Knowledge is power. Well, anybody, if you want to check out Toni's work and That Gut Feeling, she's on Facebook, That Gut Feeling AU, also Instagram, And so all the notes will be in the show notes. Toni, thank you again for coming on the show today.
That's okay. Thank you for having me.
No worries. Everybody, no matter what you are going through, you can overcome it. I'll see you next time.